Today's Homestead Security and Defenses is what we're looking at. Homestead Security and Defenses. So like I say, there's a separate kind of a ordeal that we need to consider, make considerations for if we're doing a bug out scenario. That would be a completely different show that I do. We'll be talking about defenses, security, protection in a bugging out scenario, right? So what we're going to be focusing here today on is going to be the homestead. So this is like... So what we're going to do is we're going to base this on a complete grid down. So this is our SHTF. This is how we're going to need this security and defenses big time because it's Mad Max styly. This is what we're heading for. So this is our situation report, right? So just try and get your mindset into this. I'm sure you've pictured it a million times, but this is going to be the 1,000,001st time. Complete grid down scenario, no juice, no outlets, no nothing. Inoperable sewage systems, flush the toilets, not going anywhere. Inoperable water system, turn the faucet, turn the tap, no water's coming out. Total cell and internet outage as well. Don't forget your cell towers have less than about 48 hours worth of battery backup in them. So major transport disruptions, which is just inevitable, of course, where you don't have any traffic systems running, you don't have any, people don't care, they're in a panic, they're trying to get to the store, which is closed or completely ransacked already. All trade and commerce ceased with the digital system we're already in. Once the internet goes down, the power goes down, they have no way of taking your money, they have no way of checking that item through the till to even know what it costs. How many stores do you go into now where there's the price is actually on a sticker on the actual thing? It's not. It's just on the shelf. You pick it up and they scan it. So if you can't scan it because none of the electronics is working, how are you going to even know how much it is to charge someone even if they did have cash? You see? And you need electricity just for the cash register to open. I'm going to look at this from a perimeter point of view, and it's just the easier way to break it down. So we're going to start off from our least biggest threat, from starting all the way out, and then we're going to work in closer and closer and closer into ourselves. Looking at each level of security and things we need to watch out for, right? So what we're going to be looking at now, we're going the next level in. So now we're going into your local neighborhood. So the local neighborhood is this. So we're talking about your sort of nearest 4 or 5 streets from your house. Now, don't forget, this property here is the one I've chosen for today's scenario, SHTF scenario, right? So when we talk about your local area now, what we really care about is this road here leading into your estate in this scenario. We all live here, by the way. This is our house. And you've got this road here also into this estate, right? There's a little bit of a thing going on here. Look, there's a bit of a driveway here that sort of goes up, and you'll see that actually comes round to the back of our house inadvertently, but not really. So I don't really see that as a threat. Yeah. But certainly this wider area we need to be concerned about. We need to sort of understand who are our local residents around here that are going to be the most needy. Who are going to be the residents around here that are going to be the most gnarly? Which directions are they likely to come from? What are these people behind me like here? Who are these guys, right? Do I know any of these people? Do I have a relationship with these people over the back of my property? Because, I don't know, maybe one of these properties, these white properties here gets got, right? And maybe they come over their fence into my property, yeah? So I've got to decide, if I've got limited resources, right, I need to know from a sort of immediate neighborhood area, where am I most likely to be getting my threats from and from what direction? Who are the people around here I feel I can trust? Who are the people around here I feel I can't? What are the in routes? What are the out routes? And what can our neighborhood do to help? And so on, right? The other thing that comes under the local neighborhood part of it is we're talking about also the potential need for you and me and everyone else, right, to get from here, where we live. Somehow we need to be able to get to here, don't forget, because we're going to need the river. We're going to need to be getting water. We're going to need to do fishing. So we are going to need to be finding ways that are safe for us to be able to somehow go from home. Don't worry, we won't get lost. You'll get familiar with it. This is our home. We're not lost. This is us here, right? We need to be able to get from home, maybe down this track here, right? And then we need to come up here or whatever, right? So there's all these tricky scenarios. So with your local area, you're also looking at that too, right? You may feel like it's better to just come down your main road down here and through, right? And maybe come to this part of the river here. But these are the things you need to decide. Which way am I going to go? Which is a less gnarly route to the river, right? So when we're talking about the local neighborhood, it's these sorts of things that we're considering here, right? We're talking about things like your perimeter approach analysis, like we did. What's the main road coming into your area? What's the main roads coming in from other areas, maybe from other housing estates where they're going to want to try and rob your houses because they don't feel like they're going to see you in the morning on the way to work, like I said, right? So your local friends and family lookouts, radio comms, right? So this is where, you know, the local neighborhood you want to have, hopefully, right? You want to be having maybe somebody that, like I say, maybe someone that's over here or something that can actually tell you if they see someone going down this road. Because don't forget, this is the only road into our house, is this one. Yeah? This is the one that leads up to our cul-de-sac. And then this is our house here. You see? So what ideally we could do within our local neighborhood is to sort of somebody who can see and give us the heads up if someone starts coming up our road. I mean, this could be somebody who maybe lives here on the corner, right? And again, we would have a ham radio for them so that they could let us know if it's hitting the fan, yeah? So the things we need to consider as part of the local neighborhood. So this is before we were, just to distinguish, we were wider area before, where we're looking at the town as a whole and just your intel, you know, your local radio stations, your local supplies and areas, right? So now we're local neighborhood. We care more about the sort of local 4 or 5 streets around us, right? So your neighbor lookout syndicates, right? Like I said, I've got a guy over the road here who his house is what would be the equivalent here? I don't know. I suppose his house would be like here, right? Looking down this road, right? Oh, sorry. His house would be here looking down this road, right? It'd help if we were looking here. Sorry. His house... Right, hold on, let's start again. Sorry, I was on the wrong page, wrong screen. So this is our house here to refamiliarize. This is our cul-de-sac, right? This is our house. So a good example would be this house here, yeah? If we spin around this way, this house here has got perfect view, look, down the road. So this property here has got such a great vantage point coming up. Anyone coming up this road is perfect. So when we're talking about things like the neighbor lookout syndicates, it's worth being reasonably strategic about who you're approaching or who you're making friends with or whatever to be. And of course, don't forget, you're going to be offering protection and look out for them too. So it's a two-way thing, right? So you've also may have things nearby, neighbors up the road who have got dogs that always bark when people are walking by. So get to learn those noises because they'll become even more apparent and useful at night when you're trying to figure out if people are approaching from a certain distance. Yeah. So drone surveillance, right? So what we are kind of now at a point, right, where in the grand scheme of the area that we're trying to cover, in terms of the area that we're trying to observe as our threats coming in from each of these angles and directions, we are kind of at a point now where we're a little bit beyond the realm of with like binoculars or whatever. We're not close protection yet, but we need to get a heads up of where's coming from where. And there's lots of ways we can do that. Now, as an example, with that distance down the end of the road I just showed you, there are things that you can do. And again, this is another thing that will be part of the tactical comms kit that I'll be providing as part of Sigma Prepper, right? Now, this doesn't look like it, but this is a surveillance bug, right? Where's my disaster radio? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll whip the old 18650 out of that. I can't afford more than one. Although, thank you, Robert McNamara, for the super chat. Really appreciate it, my man. Maybe I should get an extra 18650. So the idea with this, right? I mean, this is my own design, so you have to bear with it, right? So this is an 18650. Bosch, she is in. That is now little microphone there. Yeah, that's all it is. Little antenna wire, right? And this thing is transmitting on ham radio. Yeah. So the idea with these, they transmit on on FM radio. So like your normal FM radio, right? Good for a couple of 100 meters, maybe 200-300 yards, right out in the open. Now the benefit of that, you see, and I'll show you what it actually looks like. So this is as small as the circuit board is, and it runs on anything from about 4 to 7 volts. Now the voltage will depend on the range you get, so the way I'm going to configure it will be a little bit juicy, and it will run off 18650, but it'll last a couple of days. A couple of days on an 18650, you should just replace the battery every couple of days. But you can pop this little chap down the end of your street, right? And believe me, you're going to know when people are walking up the road because you're going to hear them. And the benefit of that is you can have your ham radio, because the ham radios obviously support the FM radio feature, which is a great thing about the Bayer things, right? And the other great thing is that if you keep it on the FM radio mode, if you receive a transmission from somebody you've got your earpiece, don't forget, so you're just walking around all the time, you're just listening, and you're just listening to the surveillance bug that's up the road transmitting on FM radio, right, that you've tuned into. But if anybody transmits to you because, like, I don't know, maybe your partner or something in the house has seen someone rustling in the back garden and they're going, someone in the back garden, it will automatically cut the way the Bayer things work is it cuts out the FM radio, switches straight to the person talking to you, right? So it means that you can be rocking about while you're doing your patrols and stuff, right? And you'll be able to hear just with any FM radio if anyone's coming up the street, right? So imagine a couple 100 yards, you could put your surveillance bug down here in this bush, right? So bear in mind, your house might be up the end of the road here, yeah? It's this one. But that surveillance bug is easy good enough to be able to maybe put it on the top of that wall there, right, on the bush. And you're going to be hearing them before they even know where you are. You're going to hear them coming up the road. And don't forget, you can set a couple of these up. The tactical comms kit that I'll be providing on my survival gear page on the website will be, you'll have 2 of these on different frequencies, and you can program them yourself, right? So you can have like 2 different bugs on 2 different frequencies, and then maybe one of your other members of the team can be listening to that one. So the other thing we've got is things like drone surveillance, right? Now don't laugh at it, because it is a thing. Now I used to run a video and aerial photography business way back. I used to design pan and tilt systems, right? So I did more designing of stuff for the drone industry than drone flying. When the drone flying I did, it was more video production, professional stuff, right? So things like these sort of FPV, first person view drones are good. You know, you've got a small camera on the front, look, right? And you can bomb about, you can be checking stuff out. You've got a video transmitter, there's the antenna at the back, look. There's a small video transmitter in there, battery pack on there, good for about 10-minute flight time if you're lucky, if you're not flying around like a total maniac. So with about an 8-minute flight time, you know, you can get out quite far with this. If you imagine about 70 miles an hour top speed, you wouldn't really necessarily want to rock about at top speed. But the point is that you can do a good bit of surveillance up the road. You can check out what's going up the road and stuff, yeah? See any threats that are coming in from a reasonable good distance, and that would cover the wider area, I would say, in terms of, like, subject to the size of your drone, obviously, right? But in terms of our little area here that we live in, let's reorient so we know where we are. Look, this is our house here in our little cul-de-sac, right? So if I was taking off, I can take off from a garden there, right? Obviously, as I said, this isn't my house. It's just an example house I'm using for today's show, right? But I can take off from there, and you can easily... I mean, I've flown like 6 kilometers with that one. I mean, literally there and back straight away, right? But, 4 kilometers. About 2.5 each way. So in terms of 2.5 kilometers, it's about 1.8 miles. So, you know, with a drone like that, you can get... Look, you can get pretty far. Let's call it 2.5 kilometers I've had out of that before. So we want to be maybe 1.6, look at that. Oh, Kaza, what an absolute babe. Thank you so very much. How super generous is that? Thanks for your dedicated hard work, Andy. Thank you for your support. Kaza. Because without you, I wouldn't even be able to do this show, would I? YouTube holding this channel back the way it is, I'm never going to get any return on investment I was spent on this channel. So thank you so very much, Kaza. I really appreciate that. That's super kind. So as we just saw, we're going all the way from our little town here, yeah, we could get all the way out to here with that drone to see what's going on if we wanted to. So don't underestimate the force multiplier of drones nowadays, and you can get these things that virtually fly themselves. Now mine's a custom build, so I'm not going to have problems with, you know, it getting shut down with mainstream stuff like DJI, right? But that is a consideration. But from a wider area point of view, a drone's it's a pretty good tool. The other thing as well I would also mention, now I just rigged this up. This is the benefit of having a son, right? Don't write off things like a little radio controlled car with a little camera on it as well, right? Yeah. This is again one of my own little designs. It's just something I threw together just to give you an example. I haven't actually put a video transmitter in there, but I have done before and it works quite well. But this is a small version. I've got a bigger version as my son's as well that I will do as a proper FPV rover surveillance vehicle, which will be able to have a pretty good range, maybe about a mile range I'm looking at. And so to be able to drive quite far away with a little camera that's live feeding back to you with your VR goggles on, right? And you can see, you could drive down the road, right? So you can, it's quite easy to do. You can buy little wireless video transmitters that are good for doing that. Super easy, yeah? So, you know, really appreciate the super chats. Thank you, Kazo and Robert McNamara today. Such a great bunch. So let's get back to it then. Now, you've got things like the telescope binoculars. I mean, to be honest, when I have something like this that just sits on my shelf, and it does go in my bushcraft bag now and again. It's not amazing. It's a really low budget one. It's something that I really need to buy myself that's good. But having a decent monocular or something like that, you know. Do I get a massive big eye when I do that or not? Having a massive monocular, I quite like monocular, but they take up less room and you only just go boom and you're in, right? So having something like that, night vision particularly, subject to budget, of course. Everybody has a different budget. I made my own night vision using a little camera here that I got for another project. This is called a night owl camera. It's got a really big lens on the front of this. Now this camera is specifically designed for like super low light capability. It's pretty amazing actually. So I made something with this where it literally, this TV camera was just mounted. Let's pop it on the main, let's have a better view of this. So I bought this little TV monitor that cost me something like, I don't know, it was like 10 pounds from AliExpress like years and years ago, right? I've done a few modifications to it and got my own little wires coming out here because I've put my own circuit board in, don't ask. But this little camera, you see, I just had on here, right? And then you can just walk around and I could literally see like night vision perfect with it. And I've got an infrared torch and it's amazing, right? It is literally like daylight. This thing's crazy, the low light ability. And so that was my super poor man's version of night vision, right? Look at Connie Richards, what a main babe. So thank you very much. Sigma Prepper, you are an amazing human. You give of yourself unselfishly. We can all learn from you. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you so much. What an absolute darling. Thank you so much, Connie. Gonna make me cry. Oh dear, what an absolute babe. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. So yeah, long range CCTV wireless, not IP cameras. Not IP cameras, right. This is super important. This is a force multiplier, right? Now, let's refamiliarize. This is our house here, don't forget. Here we are. This is our little house in our little cul-de-sac. Now, video cameras. Wireless video cameras. A lot of people say to me like, oh, I've got these wireless video. No, they're not wireless. They are IP cameras. They're different. They use the wireless internet. And they go all the way out to the internet and all the way back to you for you to see it. So the minute the internet goes down, you have no CCTV. You have no CCTV with no internet. Try it. Pull the plug out. See how far you get. Right? So, what I recommend is these are not IP cameras, but they are wireless cameras. These are called ANRAN. ANRAN. A-N. Okay. Now, all you get on the end of this, apart from a little reset button, but all you get on the end of this is a little 12 volt DC jack. 12 volt is all this thing needs. Now, the difference with this from an IP camera, instead of it sending it across the internet protocol, as in it uses the internet protocol to send it across the internet, so it means you're reliant on your router, your Wi-Fi and all that working, right? The difference with these type ones is they come with their own NVR, right? Or their DVR, which is the digital video recorder that comes with it. Now, in this instance, it's one that comes with 4, 5, 6 cameras, and the box itself has its own antennas on, and it's just directly receives it from there, and then that box you plug your TV into and you can view it. And if you choose to, you can plug that into your LAN port so you can give it the internet to, remote view it. But these aren't susceptible to the internet going down because they transmit directly from here to your main box that you get with this set. So what it means is that you can have a battery pack. I mean, obviously I have off-grid solar systems, so we are assuming, as why I made reference to the advanced principles of prepping and grid down scenario, right, where we talk about all the different options you've got for off-grid solar power, right? Or just off-grid power generally. Now, if you've got a decent battery pack, I've got a lithium phosphate pack over there that I'd show you, but basically I would just plug this in and I can just strap this to a tree. Right, now the other thing to look out for is try and get ones that have the SMA connectors, so not some horrible molded nasty antenna plastic thing, but one that's actually got SMA connectors on them. The benefit of SMA connectors is you can get a whole wealth of optional antennas that can give you increased range, directional attenuation, and so on, right? So try and look for ones that have got, proper removable antennas, and then you'll be able to buy optional extra antennas that can get you much greater distance, perhaps even directional antennas, right? So the benefit with this is good for a good, couple of 100 meters, believe it or not, open wide, maybe 50 meters down your street. So don't underestimate the power of that, because what it allows you to do is, let's say, for example, we're here, right? And you're inside there, you've got your main base station unit, you've got your antenna good enough so it can be seen, right? So, for example, what you could maybe do is, like I say, even up the road here, where you've got that, where you've got the little radio bug that I showed you, you can use. Maybe in this bush here, and even get permission from maybe this person who lives here, right? Because it's to protect him as well. Don't forget, give him a ham radio. He can probably see people coming up this street here. Tell him that you'll put a camera here, and you'll keep your eye on it. It's got night vision. Don't forget. And it means that maybe once a month, once every other day, you just take a walk down the street to this guy's house. You get in the back of the hedge here, yeah, where you've got your little battery pack, and you've got your camera, and you just got that hidden on the wall there in the bush, yeah. But your home from here, right? That's good enough to reach from there, easy peasy. If you're in this top window here in your bedroom, and you've got your monitor checking it, yeah, using your off-grid power. You can be looking down this road yourself, yeah, with the camera. You see? Now, if that was an IP camera that you buy, that use the internet, forget about it. It's not going to do anything. But with a small 12-volt pack, yeah. Now, during the night, bear in mind, you have the infrared lamps. These have got infrared LEDs that go around the rim, and the camera's in the middle, right? So at night time, it will illuminate, and it will take a little bit more juice, maybe a couple of watts. Instead of maybe 1 watt, maybe 3 watts. So you'll need a decent sized battery pack, but even if you've got a spare car battery sitting about, whack it in that bush, get your camera on there, strap it to a tree, get creative, you know what I mean, right? And get a heads up yourself. You could even get them over here, look, in your bushes here, if you're not sure about maybe someone coming in from your back garden, right? Yeah, well, there you go. Get one in there, right? So it's important to give yourself options when it comes to things like that, right? So when we're talking about long-range CCTV, wireless, not IP cameras, you know what Guam, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Because there's a big difference. And, with the right antennas, you can do quite well with those little, there's these sort of wireless video cameras. I've got 4 running on my property, but I've got a 2 spare, ready to go where they need to go, if you know what I mean. When it's ready to go. Yeah. So remember, right? So this is about using your local neighborhood knowledge. This is like local neighbors. This is your very closest 4 or 5 streets around you, right? This is really important. This is where all the action's going to happen. So remember, handheld RAM radio devices have a usable range of only a few miles. Investigate alternative communication options if needed. So your immediate neighbours now is where we're going to be getting, you'll notice the colour up the top here is getting oranger and redder as we go, right? Because we're getting closer and closer in.